All right, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. This is the Community Advisory Committee organizational meeting for Bally's Bronx. So I'll get started. I'll go through the first half of everything, and then we'll turn it over to Bally's for their presentation. So we're going to kick it off by having a call to order and establishment of quorum. Upon the receipt of a completed application in response to the request for applications issued pursuant to New York Racing Pari-Mutual Wagering and Breeding Law, Title 2A, the Commission will establish a Community Advisory Committee, or CAC, for each application received based upon the physical location of the proposed facility. Accordingly, having received a completed application for a project at 450 Hutchinson River Parkway in the Bronx, the Commission has established a CAC for the applicant, Bally's Bronx. By statute, such a CAC committee is to consist of appointees made by the governor, the New York City mayor, state senator, state assembly member who represent the district where the proposed facility is going to be located, and the borough president and the city council member representing the district where the facility is proposed to be located. Members of this CAC have been appointed by Governor Kathy Hochul, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, New York State Senator Natalia Fernandez, New York State Assembly Member Michael Benedetto, Borough President Vanessa Gibson, and New York City Council Member Christy Marmorato. Pursuant to New York General Construction Law, Section 41, a quorum shall be established by the presence of 4 members. So I will now call the roll, and please let me know. Rafael Salberios, appointed by Governor Kathy Hochul.
Here.
Paul Phillips, appointed by New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
Present.
Alex Porco, appointed by New York State Senator Fernandez.
Present.
Matthew McKay, appointed by New York State Assembly Member Benedetto.
Present.
Lisa Soren, appointed by Borough President Gibson.
Present.
And Daniel Volpe, appointed by New York City Council Member Marmorato.
Present.
The presence of a qualified, the quorum of qualified members is present, enabling the transaction of business. So materials to be discussed at today's meeting have all been provided to the members, including Resolution 2501 regarding public access to CAC meetings, along with proposed rule text, Resolution 2502 regarding administration of the Freedom of Information Law by CAC, along with the proposed rule text, a copy of a brief introduction and task overview presentation, a proposed template schedule, along with a template form to request changes to the applicant and conduct a final vote, as well as a copy of Racing Law, Section 1321D, which details Community Advisory Committee processes. Moving on to the consideration of resolution, the appointment of a Community Advisory Committee chair. So per New York Racing Pari-Mutual Wagering and Breeding Law, Section 1321D3E7, each CAC at its first meeting shall elect a chair by majority vote. And so at this time, we'd like to start that process by opening nominations to serve as chair of this committee.
We'd like to nominate Lisa Soren. Second.
Any other nominations?
Third.
A motion made to close nominations? All in favor for Lisa Soren to serve as chair of Bally's Bronx Community Advisory Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations, Lisa. So now we'll move on to a very brief overview of what this process is, what my role is. There are slides to go over. I'll save that for the end just to kind of get through the rest of the materials. So my name is Nurain Siddiqui. I'm a principal consultant with NYSEC, the entity selected following a public bid to serve as CAC consultant for the New York State Gaming Commission. Founded over a quarter century ago, NYSEC is a not-for-profit consulting company with more than 350 full-time employees, operating in multiple locations across the state, including New York City. We have extensive experience in task force and steering committee coordination, stakeholder engagement, public meeting facilitation, adherence with New York's open meetings law, and large-scale event planning. I want to start by advising that each CAC member has been provided a copy of the completed application submitted by Bally's in response to the request for applications. And if anyone needs additional access to materials, just let me know. And as a reminder, the application materials do contain identifiable information and trade secrets, so which, if disclosed, could cause substantial injury to the competitive position. So just take care to, when handling the unredacted version. And I also want to note that the redacted responses have been posted on the Gaming Facility Location Board's website for the public to view. All right, moving on, best practices resolution consideration. So it's my understanding that the New York State Committee on Open Government has created 2 documents to guide best practices to govern for public access to meetings and handling of the Freedom of Information requests. So before you are best practices documents adapted from the Open Meetings Law model rules for public bodies and the Freedom of Information Law model rules for agencies. All members of this CAC have been provided draft documents in advance. I believe that the Committee on Open Government documents are pretty clear and straightforward and should be considered as circulated. So taking them individually now. May I have a motion to adopt Open Meetings Law model rules for public bodies as adapted for the Bally Bronx CAC?
So moved.
Second? All in favor of adopting Open Meetings Law model rules for public bodies as adapted for our CAC, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. May I have a motion to adopt Freedom of Information Law model rules for agencies as adapted for the Bally's Bronx CAC?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, ayes have it. So I spoke with a few of you. The next thing to go over is the schedule and timeline for the rest of the CAC process moving forward. So we'll discuss dates, locations for public hearings, the final vote. Practically, we need to figure out how the hearings want to run, how the presentations are going to be undertaken. And in 2014, the Gaming Facility Location Board put out a protocol to conduct applicant presentations. And while not perfectly applicable, it does contain a couple of items that we can consider, but we can talk afterwards to discuss logistics. And the guidance that they put out has been updated for CAC consideration. I will go through the slides now. Thank you, Phil. So sorry, it's a little awkward, but they are on the screen behind you. This will be a quick overview of the CAC process, my role, your role, everyone's roles by September 30th. So it's generally a very broad overview. This is also online, so everyone can kind of review at their own pace, and no one's forced to memorize anything I'm saying right now. So very general background regarding the commercial casino process in New York State. The state constitution was amended in 2012 to allow up to 7 commercial casinos in the state. 4 of the 7 were established in upstate in 2014 and 15, following a competitive process similar to what we're going through right now. And then in 2022, the legislature established a citing process for up to 3 more casino licenses. And they specifically created a gaming facility location board to issue an RFA, evaluate applications, and up to 3 projects for potential licensure. Board issued an RFA in 2023, and they currently has 4 members. Vicki Bean is the chair, Terrell Brown, Marion Phillips III, Greg Reimers, and there's 1 vacancy. Okay, so the law requires the creation of a project-specific committee to determine whether the application will advance to the Gaming Facility Location Board for consideration. As I mentioned, each committee is made up of appointees of the elected officials that represent the physical location of the proposed project. All right, how did we end up here? So June 27th, the state received 8 applications. So 8 committees have been formed. We specifically are here because you've been appointed by your appointing authority to serve on the Community Advisory Committee for Bally's Bronx, located at Ferry Point. As mentioned, all committee members have received the redacted and unredacted material for the Bally's application. And here's where we are in the whole citing process and specific milestones. So every committee has until September 30th to complete its work, and the applications that are approved by their respective committees will then be evaluated by the board by different statutory criteria, and the board expects to announce its elections by December 1st, and that's followed by license consideration by the end of this year. So we're moving along. And again, by statute, each committee is required to review their respective application, solicit and review, hear public comment, and hold at least 2 public hearings by which to hear public comment. And then again, by September 30th, each CAC has to vote on whether or not the application will proceed. And that procedure will be done by a 2/3 majority vote. So a failure to hold this vote by the 30th will be ultimately deemed a rejection. All right, a little bit more of a summary of what I just said. Again, CACs are required to vote for a chair, review the application, attend the hearings and meetings, review public comments, and then vote in another public setting meeting such as this before September 30th. For Bally's application to proceed, there has to be 4 members must vote in the affirmative, so 4 out of the 6. Application changes. So the committee could solicit changes to the application. There are some limitations by which this has to happen with. So in discussions with the committee, the bidder may make a promise, commitment, or obligation. And to be considered, it has to essentially be reduced to writing, filed by the appropriate deadlines, and all of the promises, commitments, and changes have to be definitive and not incumbent or reliant on any unconditioned ability. Committee also may request the applicant to change or modify their application. Again, has to be reduced to writing and filed by the deadline. Any change or modification should not affect the Environmental Quality Review Act. All right. Advance an application. Again, the committee has to notify the Gaming Facility Location Board of an unconditional affirmative by the deadline, September 30th. All materials that this decision is based on also have to be given to the board by that deadline as well. And again, to advance the application, 4 out of 6 have to vote in the affirmative. So it's not going. There we go. All right. So I don't think I've said this yet, but in order for the Bally's application to proceed, 4 out of the 6 have to vote in the affirmative.
How many?
Exactly. There'll be a podcast for that. Okay, a big disclaimer for this slide. This is a suggested schedule, but a proposed schedule for the committee's work to continue includes 2 meetings, the first of which we're having right now, 2 public hearings, which we'll discuss afterwards when and where to hold them. And again, proposed schedule, not definitive. It is just a sample, especially considering the date and where we are today. Public comment. So a very important part of this process is soliciting public comments. There are multiple ways to do that. There will be 2 public hearings held for the public to submit comments in person. There's also an email address and a mailing address, so multiple avenues by which the public can submit comments directly to the committee. There's no specific deadline for submitting comments, but the committee does have to vote by September 30th, so a heads up to get the information in sooner rather than later, so the committee has time to review all of them. Okay, again, unredacted application material. Just another word of caution that as a member of the committee, you do have access to the unredacted material that does contain sensitive information. So just careful when you are reviewing and discussing that also. So we are in a public setting, so any conversations should take care not to include any proprietary or sensitive information. All right, open meetings law and logistics. So my colleagues and I at NISAC are providing the logistical assistance to each committee, including securing meeting locations, technology materials, anything like that. And as required by state law, every single meeting and hearing will be open to the public, the media, accessible, webcast, and recorded as well. Event locations, I know you all have been very helpful in helping kind of brainstorm and secure different locations, but again, as a reminder, you are encouraged to bring forth some of those recommendations to make sure that where we hold the meetings are conducive and accessible to your respective communities. All right, talked about this a little bit, but proposed community advisory committee event. We have meetings, hearings, and the final vote. Right now, this is considered a meeting. The 2 public hearings are to be scheduled, and then the final vote will take place in a similar meeting setup such as this. You'll notice that we again remind everyone that 4 committee members have to vote in the affirmative for the application to proceed. Again, another overview of meetings, hearings. On this slide, I do want to note that hearings are not venues for back and forth or Q&A between the public, applicant, or CAC members. They're really solely meant for the public to submit their comment and for the members to receive comment. Language access, I'll work with all of you to see if there's any specific languages that would be helpful for your communities to receive the notices in. We will have ASL available at the hearings to ensure accessibility. Communication with project representatives. So a reminder to please be mindful of public officers' law obligations and refrain from contact with the applicant unless it's within a controlled setting. So again, it doesn't apply to any official business interaction between a committee member kind of undertaking your normal day-to-day job in your position. Nope, next one. Another reminder about ethics. So again, please avail yourselves of all the applicable laws, COLIG being one of them, the Committee on Ethics and Lobbying in Government. And then also just always consult with your reporting authority if there's any questions you have or any gray area about what can and cannot be officially done. Next slide. So it's not letting me move it. All right. Some of the more applicable laws relating to CAC procedures. And the next slide has a couple of more links. All right. Any questions so far? We're about halfway done with my presentation.
How many people have to vote? I'm sorry.
Well, thanks for your patience. We are at the end of what I am saying. This is our contact information. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out. And now I can turn it over to Bally to represent any questions about the material I just went over beforehand.
No questions.
All right. Turn it over to you.
Well, Chair Soren and members of the Community Advisory Committee, good morning. And my name is Sue Kin. I'm the chairman of Bally's Corporation. And Bally's is one of the fastest growing gaming companies in America, with 19 casinos across 12 states, as well as 1 in the UK. And we are in the process of purchasing 3 more in Australia. But of all that, we actually have the 3rd most extensive footprint of casinos in the country. But and we manage casinos, including smaller, more rural casinos, casinos in story destinations like Vegas and AC. But actually, our most relevant experience is that we can manage casinos that are quite large, more than 4,000 gaming positions, in densely populated areas like Providence and Chicago, in areas that also have challenges such as high costs and high taxes. So we believe we're the most relevant operator, and we bring our fantastic track record of being able to manage a project exactly that this market represents, and we're here to answer the call for the state. And how do we do that? Well, we do that because of our team. We have we've built a great team over the years. We've been working together for more than 15 years. And from the board, the executive leadership team, we believe that we represent so many of the perspectives, and we can meet our customers where they are. And it's our understanding of those markets is why we succeed. I have the honor to lead this team, and in some ways, it's my own values that are reflected onto the company. I am a new American. I was born here, but I grew up in Queens. Attended public schools, including schools just a few miles from the actual Ferry Point site. I am a proud parent, proud product parent as well. Proud product of New York City, New York State, and both of which I still call home. And it's this local knowledge. We have global expertise, but we also have local knowledge, and it's this local knowledge that makes our proposition so unique. See, a lot of the way this happens is that you have a local developer who already owns a piece of land, is just trying to, make more money with that land. And then so they go out and find an out-of-state operator and try to partner and put together a project such as this. But for us, it's quite different. We are the operator, and yet we're also local. And so when we went around with the freedom to decide where we thought the project should be that would actually address the state's need the most. One of the reasons why historically we have been successful in competitive RFPs is that we're quite intentional about the way we go about things. And when we look at the RFP, it's clear that the largest scoring element, 75%, comes down to the economic impact that we leave for the state. And so clearly the first element of that is maximizing gaming profits, gaming revenues. The second element is, putting those jobs and community benefits in the areas that need it the most. And so when we thought about, the location across the state, the city that would most readily meet those requirements, the Bronx stood out above all the other sites that we had, and we had a few different sites under option. The Ferry Point site is a fantastic site. Not only are we surrounded by 200 acres of what happens to be one of the best public golf courses, championship level in the country. Our neighbors are a cemetery and a park. Our entrance is thousands of feet away from the nearest home. And yet we're still bracketed by two bridges, obviously the Whitestone and the Throgs Neck, each of which carry more than 40 million cars a year. And that's really one of the keys, because for a casino here, this casino will be the highest revenue casino in the country when built. We're talking about GGR, or gross gaming revenues, well north of $1 billion. For a casino to do that, you need to be able to bring onto the site, off to the site, more than 5 million cars a year. And so it's the proximity to the highways, the fact that you can go egress and ingress without hitting any local roads. That's one of the reasons why we think the site works so well. And yet, for that, we're also you can also access the site by public ferry and get there in about 20 minutes from the east side of Manhattan. Obviously, one of the nation's largest and busiest airports are literally a stone's throw away. We think that this site has the highest revenue potential of all sites. The other thing, in terms of being responsive to the RFP, is we think that by placing it in the county, the borough that has the objectively the most economic need, by placing the more than 4,000 jobs, all of which will lead all of our employees straight into the middle class with healthcare and retirement benefits. We believe that placing it where it matters the most is most responsive to the RFP. We do intend to, as we described, in addition to the many benefits that we've already enumerated, including parkland improvements, traffic, public safety, we also have allocated 1% of gross gaming revenues to a fund for community benefits. that will be spread across the entire Bronx. We've said that we've committed that the minimum will be 10 million a year, but frankly, we think that there will be north of that because we think obviously there'll be more than $1 billion of GGR. But the Bronx is the proud borough, and so look, this is not just about giving where there's need. This is also an opportunity to build what will be the largest private project the borough has ever seen by almost a factor of 2, by creating a place that the entire borough can be proud of, that would join the ranks of Yankee Stadium, Arthur Avenue, the Botanical Garden, Bronx Zoo. These are ultimately world-class attractions that radiate well beyond the borough, and Bally's Bronx will join that. Look, it's a symbolic opportunity for me. I mean, to think that I remember in the 80s riding across these very bridges across Bronx and the Bruckner. It was a very different place, and to think that you can actually, that we're thinking, I don't know, like what is it, 45 years later, that we'd be presenting a $4 billion placemaking integrated resort next to a world-class golf course right here in the Bronx. I think that's what America's all about, taking what was waterfront, landfill, a garbage dump, not even a park at one point, now a golf course, and making a destination that the whole city and the state can be proud of. Bally's is ready to bet on the Bronx. We're here. And thank you.
Thanks, Sue. So I'm going to skip right into the product overview. By way of introduction, Christopher Jewett, Senior Vice President of Corporate Development for Bally's, been leading this project for the last few years. Jumping in here, we'll start with the key project highlights. I guess first and foremost, one headline worth noting is that this project will instantly become the largest privately funded project in Bronx history, as Sue had mentioned, totaling nearly $4 billion of total investment. And that's not inclusive of our ongoing and recurring community benefits. This economic engine for the Bronx is projected to have nearly $1.5 billion of annual economic impact for the region on a recurring basis. Taking a step back, I want to note the criteria that has been established by the Gaming Facility Location Board, which is consistent with the intent of the original act, which authorized commercial casino gaming in New York State nearly a decade ago. So that original intent was to provide economic assistance to disadvantaged areas of the state while enhancing visitation and tourism. Where else is economic impact more meaningful than the borough, with the least economic investment, the highest unemployment rate, and the lowest median income? This project will become the second largest private employer in the Bronx once open, offering nearly 4,000 new jobs and career opportunities, which will essentially be all unionized. In addition, while the resort is being constructed, we're estimating the equivalent of 15,000 union construction jobs to support the facility. Additionally, prior to the resort opening, we're investing approximately $75 million in transportation upgrades to improve access to the project site and the overall quality of transit access to the area. We'll also be dedicating approximately 7 acres of new parkland in Council District 13, as well as providing for a nearly 9-figure investment in parkland improvements in the area, with a significant focus of that spend on Ferry Point Park, where we'll be located. Throughout our journey to today, we spent countless hours and days engaging various stakeholders in the community, and through those conversations, we've adjusted our plans. As such, we are incorporating an NYPD substation within our project, as a desire for additional resources and presence was a consistent theme that we learned throughout our conversations. In addition to that, as part of our community benefits agreement, we're also committing to building other substations within the 45th precinct, as it's the second largest geographically in the city, and providing multiple millions of dollars annually for additional NYPD staffing. The project site, which you can see on the bottom right of the screen, sits at the foot of the Whitestone Bridge, as mentioned. It's the site of the former landfill. As you can see by the historical timeline of the development site, it sat for decades unused. New York City Parks ultimately took over the site decades after that landfill was shuttered and sat stagnant. They worked through the various agencies, including the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, to put in place a development agreement to develop and improve the site into a public golf course. That golf course opened in 2015, and we assumed operations of it in September of 2023. We're proposing to build the integrated resort at the project site on what is currently a portion of the site that's approximately 16 acres, and today incorporates the parking lot, as well as the existing clubhouse and approximately 1 acre of the practice area. So moving on, here's a satellite view of the project site where the outlined area in green denotes the approximately 16 acres I've mentioned for the integrated resort. This sits within the 222 acre golf course site as outlined in red, which represents the portion of Ferry Point Park, which we have responsibility for under our current license agreement with New York City Parks. There are a few very important aspects that I want to point out here as to why this is a tremendous site for a project like ours. I think Sue stole a little bit of my thunder, but it's a good start. Number one, site has direct access directly from the highway, which is an important key to any urban project such as ours. A vast majority of our visitors will be coming from the surrounding network of highways. Number two, there's tremendous visibility from 2 key thoroughfares, the Whitestone Bridge and the Throgsack Bridge, plus a high level of visibility from the millions of people and passengers that are going in and out of LaGuardia every single day. It's just a short drive away, and this will create natural awareness for our project. And lastly, number 3, the site is protected on each side. We're not in anyone's backyard, nor is there direct access from any neighborhoods to the east. Our neighbors are the Hutch, the East River, the remaining 200 plus acres of golf course, and then the cemetery. Additionally, we strategically designed the project to not adversely impact the golf course itself. We purposely preserved it as it's a world-class golf course and annually ranked in the top 100 public courses by Golf Digest. As such, we'll be building a new clubhouse where the current Bally Links berm sign sits. We'll be moving the practice chipping area, which is approximately 1 acre, to in between the driving range and next to 10T. And the parking lot, which is a majority of the site that we're using today, it houses 275 parking spaces. Those will be replaced as part of our 4,660 parking spaces within the integrated resort. We'll also be dedicating a permanent easement to New York City Parks so that the golf course has the same amount of spaces in the future as it has today. The takeaway here is that everything that exists today will exist in the future and then some. So a little bit about the project program. So as illustrated on this slide, we have a dynamic project program that truly defines the Bronx as an entertainment destination. We thoughtfully considered how to construct our project, noting the history of the site, and are happy to say that we will not be excavating a large portion of the site as to not disturb what exists today. Rather, we will be drilling piles straight down into bedrock and building essentially on a platform where the ground level today is the ground level in the future. Vehicles will enter from the newly improved Ring Road, which we'll talk about in a bit, from a similar spot to where they enter today. You'll see the blue arrows on the top left of the screen. Pedestrian ingress and egress is identified with red arrows, where they'll be able to enter through our porte cochere or hotel lobby, which is the main entrance, or off the backside coming from the golf course patio area, which sits along 18 Boone. There are 2 parking structures on the site, which are colored in gray on the diagram, which provide upwards of 4,600 spaces for patrons of the golf course, the integrated resort, or general park users. Our project has been designed as a true integrated resort, which seamlessly integrates hotel rooms and suites, a dynamic food and beverage program that creates a unique indoor-outdoor dining experience, and an event center for a range of occasions. Beginning with the hotel, we have 507 hotel rooms, Approximate breakdown of that is 80% standard rooms, 20% suite product. We envision the hotel will become a new featured destination in the Bronx. They'll be flagged with a national brand. It also includes a spa in the south, which is that pinkish colored area. Today, as we all know, there's a limited quality hotel product in the Bronx. I think we're probably in one of the best. And we envision being able to capture tourists, business travelers, transient business, and folks traveling in and out of LaGuardia, in addition to our brand's loyalty customers, group sales, and resort golf visitors. There's also an integrated rooftop food and beverage venue, as well as Skyview suite experience that brings the link-style golf course and the Manhattan skyline to life, which you'll see in a little bit here. Moving to the overall food and beverage program, there's a range of different outlets, which will provide our guests with diverse tastes and ethnicities from throughout the Bronx and the region. From your traditional steakhouse to the diverse food hall, our Pan-Asian restaurant, or to the bars and lounges, there's essentially something for everybody. The event center is highlighted in orange in the upper right corner and has a 2,000 person capacity. It'll be active with a myriad of users, including local artists, nationally recognized musicians, comedic acts, graduations, and home to convention groups, as well as used for nonprofit organizations. And that's one of our commitments as part of our community benefits agreement. We have heard the community that quality public meeting space is very limited in the Bronx, and there are only 2 venues nearby that cap out at around 500 guests. We have space in the event center for banquet style events, upwards of 800 plus people seated, which is in addition to our banquet and meeting space in the hotel. The gaming facility is on the ground level. It's outlined in red on the diagram. It'll span approximately 200,000 square feet and include 3,500 slot machines, dedicated baccarat and poker rooms, and more than 200 table games to provide unique gaming experience for all of our guests. Direct connectivity throughout the property and to food and beverage, the event center and hotel is extremely important, and folks can self-guide themselves throughout the property and get to anywhere without having to necessarily go on the gaming floor. So as I previously mentioned, community feedback and input has been paramount throughout this process. In our early conceptual design, we heard from our neighbors and constituents that the design of our project had to be respectful of the surrounding neighborhood and the character of the golf course that surrounds it. To ensure that we met this mandate, we took inspiration from the surrounding forms of the golf course and utilized our stepped hotel design to mimic the undulated fairways of the surrounding links golf course, while also keeping the structure fairly low in terms of height. I think we peak out at 280 feet, whereby the top of the Whitestone Bridge sits at about 380 feet. It's important that while we create a distinct sense of place, we are sensitive to the surrounding context of the property. We have intentionally under-optimized the height and the overall size and scale of the building to respect the surrounding areas, including the Whitestone Bridge. So we'll cruise through some of the renderings here. So this first rendering, it shows an overview that illustrates the building's focus on the riverfront and the 18th hole with minimized exposure to the parkway. Note that the building, again, is well below the bridge towers, which is the highest point anywhere nearby and closest to LaGuardia. And also the sight lines from the city into the city from some of the hotel rooms and from the rooftop restaurant will be magnificent. This will be illustrative of your view coming north over the Whitestone Bridge on the hutch. This is what you'll first see off to your right. It conveys, the softness of the design and the relationship with the rolling landscaping, but also you can see the greenery on the parking structures and the orientation that essentially juts away from the hutch and into the course itself. Both parking structures, you can see, have been strategically designed and wrapped with green walls and a natural wood finish to blend in. So this view shows the energy and excitement of the arrival into the property, including the main drop-off area, or as we would call it, the porte cochere. We'll also featuring a peek through the building, as you can see here, and I'm not sure if you can see my mouse moving. I guess you can. But also this helps reduce the massing of the building so that there's airflow and visibility. And here the energy of the land, water, and resort all come together. You could still see this clearly at night. This is your, your riverboat dinner cruise, evening view. It has a good representation of how the building was strategically designed. So it's as low hung as possible in the east, gradually rising into the west so that you cannot see it directly from the Throgs Neck neighborhood. This is one snapshot of the gaming floor. It shows the excitement and the connection to the event center at the top of the escalator all the way in the back, which is also accessible without ever having to go to the casino through the mezzanine level. And there's an upgraded gaming experience that can appeal to all guests. View from our hotel lobby. So this is your experience arriving at an urban destination resort. You'll see views through the skylight that show open air, an abundance of natural light. You'll have visibility through the skylights of the hotel tower, but then also you'll be able to see planes flying in and out of LaGuardia. And then our Pan-Asian restaurant and dining experience in the corner of the gaming floor. You'll be stepping through a transformational portal that puts you essentially in a new world for amazing food and great memories. Our food hall sits on the southeast side, essentially along 18 Fairway. Provides a nice fun entertainment opportunity, a little bit of outdoor seating. And then our convention and meeting space, which can be used for weddings, corporate events, family reunions, and celebrations of all sorts. The rooftop restaurant and bar offers an amazing view of the Manhattan skyline, as I had mentioned before. We'll have upscale food offerings and a special menu cocktail bar, as well as outdoor seating. And then this is one snapshot of one of our 100 suites. This will be your city view. Again, you can see the Manhattan skyline on the other side of the property. You'll have a similar view, but you'll be looking over the East River and the Whitestone Bridge. So relative to sustainability initiatives, we've committed to sustainable development as part of our project. We plan to achieve LEED Gold, version 4.1, with a pathway to achieving version 5. And some of the initiatives here are outlined. We've included rooftop solar and rainwater recapture, energy and water efficiency that exceeds city benchmarks, with an example of this as the low flow water fixtures. Electrical vehicle charging stations, green roofs, and low carbon emissions and healthy materials usage. Right, so that's an overview of the physical portion of the project. I'm going to jump into some of the project benefits. So these project benefits are designed to provide transformative impact for the Bronx. Some we've already talked about and others will be touched upon later in the presentation. But from day one, we'll be creating significant construction jobs and sourcing opportunities for goods, materials, and services from diverse and local sources. This will create direct impacts for both local businesses and Bronx residents. Furthermore, upon opening of the resort, our permanent jobs will provide median wages that average more than 3 times the median income of a Bronx resident today. This is exponentially impactful for a county that has the lowest median income in New York State, particularly when we are committing a vast majority of the jobs to be retained by Bronx residents at a minimum goal of at least 70%. This recurring economic impact is massive, but we don't want to stop there. We want to ensure that the community is involved as an active owner and brand ambassador and proud of the economic driver that this project will be. How do we ensure that our community members are brand ambassadors, you ask? We make them owners, give them equity, make sure that the community has a direct ownership and is directly invested in the interest and success of the project. As part of our community benefits package, we're committing 9% of the project equity to be owned by Bronx residents. So a little overview on our community benefits agreement. As part of the proposal, we've included a community benefits package that totals enumerated benefits of $625 million, which has varying impactful components that will be delivered to the Bronx. And that 625 does not include any of the $4 billion of upfront investment or any of the Community Investment Program or CIP. The intention here is that this is the largest single package of benefits provided to locals in Bronx history, focused on direct support for residents and neighborhood organizations on a recurring basis every single year. Key areas of focus that I'll talk about in just a moment. We've got our Community Investment Program or CIP, the Bronx Benefit Fund, which Sue had mentioned, workforce development and local support, which my colleague Jen will detail, transit improvements, public safety enhancements, and new parkland and parkland improvements. So these slides within here, they're actually referenced within our community benefits agreement, which we made public a handful of months ago. They're also published publicly on our website, valleysbronx.com, for anyone to take a look at. But we're including our commitments here again to remind folks that aren't aware or new committee members that we've not met with. We've already touched upon much of the project scope, but I think it's important to point out the current project site today, it generates $0 of property tax for the city. Based on the level of investment we're making, and the estimates are indicating that we'll be one of the largest individual property tax payers in the Bronx. With that being said, we'll be significantly adding to the funding for public services in the tens of millions of dollars annually. We will not be draining them. The Community Investment Program, as mentioned, it's an opportunity for Bronx residents to buy into project equity with up to 9% local community ownership stake. It's an unprecedented participatory model. We envision these shares of the CIP being available for as little as $250 or $500, providing opportunity for equity ownership across all social classes. The Bronx Benefit Fund will be allocated by an independent board made up of individuals appointed by Bronx elected officials. We're committed to a minimum, as mentioned, of at least $10 million annually. We'll work with the independent board to ensure the various beneficiaries as outlined are positively impacted, including funding for local schools and PTAs, Bronx community organizations with a focus on youth sports, and also mental health and substance abuse. Continuing on to the next few buckets of benefits, I'll quickly cover the transportation improvements as we have some specific slides later. We're committed to $75 million upfront to improve access to the site. We'll be building a new overpass and improving the entirety of Ring Road within the current parkway. Additionally, we're committing to fund ongoing expanded shuttle services to the area and providing free parking accommodations at our site, which will be home to more than 4,600 parking spaces. Something that, in our view, is very impactful in peak summer months when Ferry Point Park is underserved from a parking perspective. Relative to new replacement parkland and parkland improvements, we'll be providing upwards of $100 million for new replacement parkland and parkland improvements upfront, which we'll touch upon in a couple of slides. But I also want to note that we are committing to annual funding for maintenance of certain aspects of Ferry Point Park, as well as sponsoring a summer concert series. The last section here on the page are public safety enhancements. These go hand in hand with our commitments to work closely with the 45th Precinct to design and put in an NYPD substation within our project. That will be helpful for quick response to surrounding areas nearby, not just for use by our facility if there's an emergency. We are committed to working with all of the CAC members to find another additional location for a second NYPD substation within the district as well. We've also committed an ongoing funding for supplemental officers for the substations of $3 million annually. And this has been something that we've continually heard as something that the community was looking for, so we addressed it. For the sake of time, I'm going to avoid repeating ourselves, but I'll mention just quickly the commitments for workforce development and local support initiatives at a high level. We're committing to a unique program for employees which offers free childcare services. We also plan to work with a myriad of workforce development organizations to find opportunities for thousands of team members that we'll be hiring. Additionally, I'll note that we'll be home to a community engagement office, which will oversee community engagement, involvement in workforce development, in partnership with our human resources. And we do this in all the large markets that we operate. Furthermore, we'll be working with local community colleges and apprenticeship programs to develop pathways within the Bronx for labor to careers, not just jobs. So in summary, these are the various components that make up our community benefits agreement, which we believe is groundbreaking. Relative to the parkland improvements as part of the project, we're required to replace the fair market value of the parkland that we'll be converting to a private use with a combination of new parkland and existing parkland improvements. So I did mention previously that we had 7 acres on City Island within Council District 13 under option. We'll be dedicating that back as new parkland, and then the balance will be upgrades to various parks, including a focus on Ferry Point Park. We've illustratively outlined some of the projects that we're looking at potentially doing. The last piece that we are required to do that I want to touch upon as we further develop the design, we'll be utilizing the land where the existing clubhouse sits today. That's where the integrated resort will be. We'll be constructing a new golf clubhouse on existing New York City parkland, 4 parks that'll be dedicated back, and that will go right near the 9th green adjacent to where the berm is today. You can see it'll be substantially similar in size and amenities with banquet space, food and beverage, locker rooms, showers, bathrooms, queuing areas, and a pro shop. You can see we've been working through with the Public Design Commission around what that will look like. You can see some illustrative views. I actually believe it's personally an upgrade to what is there. I think there's more outdoor space, more engagement, and you can actually see across the entire property all the way up the East River and the Manhattan skyline. So I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Jen Reagan.
Hi everyone, good day. I'm Jen Reagan. I'm the Vice President of Talent, Learning and Development for Bally's Corporation. Very happy to be here today to talk to you about this really incredible opportunity. I've been at Bally's for 11 and a half years now, and I've said that out loud a couple of times in the last week, and I really almost can't even believe it because time sure does fly. And let me tell you, I've seen some things in my day, that's for sure. My career didn't take the traditional route per se. I went to 1 year of community college after high school before losing myself in the glamorous world of hospitality. I'd always worked in restaurants. It's my first job as a hostess when I was a teenager. Made my way down to Newport, Rhode Island, where I got into a hospitality company where I really started to learn about the value of providing experiences and of service as an art. That's where I also found my passion for training and development, and I realized I wanted to do more. So I applied for an entry-level HR job with a local casino in my state. And no degree, no fancy education, just a desire to learn something new. Some would say the rest is history. I would say, and that's where it all began. So here I am today, sitting before you as the Vice President on a corporate HR team for a global business. And along the way, thanks to the confidence and support and experience I was given in my job, I went back to school. When I was 30 years old, a single mom with an infant on my hip, got my degree and even a couple of additional certifications along the way. And mine isn't the only story like this. In fact, mine doesn't even begin to crack the top 10. And actually with the thousands of employees we have across the globe, it probably doesn't even crack the top 100. I'd like to walk you through some important slides here with a lot of great data, but I must say the presentation and the information on the slides really does speak for itself. What I hope to instill upon you today is what kind of partner Bally's can be and the difference that having a partner like us can make in the lives of the people in this community. Number one, number two, you see it right there, jobs, 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 and more jobs, but not just jobs, careers, opportunities for economic advancement to begin building generational wealth. I'm not actually a fan of distinguishing too much between jobs and careers because every job is critical, an integral part of a massive machine. Some people think that it's the work itself that somehow differentiates a job from a career. But that's not how we think of it at Bally's. I mean, what's a restaurant or an event center without dishwashers, or a hotel without housekeepers? What's a gaming floor without attendants and stewards and cleaners? The bottom line is every job counts and every job matters. And every job is just as important as the next, regardless of whether it's part-time, full-time, a stepping stone, or a place you'll stay for the foreseeable future. We look at a career as the story you can tell about the jobs and the work experiences that you've had that make up your life. And we are incredibly proud to say and reiterate that we estimate 15,000 construction jobs over the course of a 30-month project, 4,000 permanent full and part-time jobs that have the ability to set people on a path to incredible lifelong success right here in the Bronx. Jobs, by the way, that my colleague already mentioned, have a median income that is exponentially higher than the current median in this area. You'll recall that my colleague showed you a slide that showed the average income for a full-time person is $96,000 a year. That can be life-changing money. That's the kind of start people need. That's the kind of start people wait a lifetime to happen upon. And these are union jobs. And we have fantastic union relationships that result in wages and benefits that have the ability to change people's lives. It sounds dramatic, and maybe it is a little dramatic, but it really is all there. And I know this because I've seen it happen. Alisar started out at one of our properties as an attendant at Nathan's Hot Dogs, and now she's the regional executive director of human resources. Darius started out as a slot attendant, and now he's the vice president and general manager of one of our Mississippi properties. The term working your way up has a completely different meaning in this industry because the entry points are so much more accessible. You'll see some numbers up here, some minimum targets that have been set to help understand what the workforce here will look like. But the most important thing is that the workforce will look like you. It will feel like you. It will be reflective of who you are, reflective of the Bronx, of this community, of our home in Community Board 10, of our neighbors and friends in Community Boards 9 and 11. That's what makes this so special. And we believe that 70% of this workforce minimum will be made up of people who live right here, and we do aspire for it to be higher than that, because we really do know that this local population is our most powerful asset. By ensuring that our teams can reflect the rich cultural mosaic of the Bronx and its surrounding neighborhoods, our goal in that is to create an inclusive and welcoming environment that really resonates with the people we serve. Let's face it, everyone's path in life is different. Some people go to college out of high school, some people don't. A lot of people don't. In fact, more and more people these days don't. Some people want to secure a job and keep on moving up, and that's amazing. Some people don't. And that's amazing. The best thing about a career with Bally's is that it can be whatever you want it to be. We are committed to providing the life experiences that you want. We believe that access to this is really the truest equalizer. And all of our employees at Bally's have access to our internal learning platforms. It's a program called Discover You. And perhaps the name is a little bit on the nose, but that's what it's all about. It's about discovering whatever you want. Whoever you are, whoever you want to be. Personal finance, sure, we've got that. Stress management, need that, we've got that too. What the heck is AI and where do I even start, like learning about it? Yep, that's the class. There's plenty of content on leadership development, managerial skills, technology, IT, but the point is it's available for open exploration to anyone who wants to learn. Career progression is important, but we recognize here that very rarely is it the proverbial ladder. Life often has different plans, and we are committed to offering all kinds of different opportunities for growth. We have learning programs across functional training, online virtual cohorts, agile learning sessions where you can learn in kind of quick spurts. It's like microdosing learning for busy operators. We have online sessions where you can connect with team members around the globe to help expand your knowledge about this company. And we're always cultivating. This isn't just a one and done scenario. We need to maintain and grow for the future, which means we constantly need to evolve internal and external programming and partnerships to ensure that we have a long and healthy talent pipeline. We have dealer schools open across the country where you can come and learn how to deal blackjack and roulette to get yourself started. And 8 weeks later, you're on the casino floor with a lucrative job. And you can come back to that school and continue honing your skills in games like craps and baccarat. We have culinary partnerships with community organizations that teach basic cooking skills, and apprenticeship programs with trade unions, community colleges, and disability organizations. One of my favorite memories here at Bally's is actually sitting in the event center at one of our Rhode Island properties watching the first graduating class of interns from Access Point, which is a local disability organization. The pride on the faces of those young men and women when they walk up on that stage and receive their certificates and hear their coworkers talk about the excellent job they did and the major impact that they made on the team. That's why we do this. And that's what we'll do here. There are some examples on the slide of organizations that we would partner with, but those are just a few of the many partnerships that we intend to explore. Bottom line is that we will be where the community needs us to be. And as we have in other regions, we will have dedicated resources here that will be responsible for engaging locally, seeking out and fostering and maintaining these kinds of partnerships. Because we don't believe in just showing up and talking about it. We believe in being present. If you'd move ahead, Chris, I'd like to talk to you for a minute about our approach to childcare support for working families. This one is near and dear to my heart because I get to work directly with Upwards, our provider for childcare support services, and I have seen the personalized care that they give our employees. There are a lot of different ways to offer childcare benefits to employees, but we choose to partner with Upwards because they have a really unique model. See, not only are they a female-founded technology company, not only are they 99% female-run business with 72% representation of people of color, they are constantly creating jobs. They have a network of thousands of in-home daycare providers across the country, and they are constantly growing. Their standards for care are exceptionally high, in many areas much higher than local licensing requirements. With an employer-paid membership to Upwards, our employees are paired with a childcare concierge who helps find the best care solution for their family, whether it's hours that they need like nights and weekends, which aren't available in traditional daycare settings, or a certain type of curriculum or a certain type of nutrition you want your child to experience, a certain budget you have to work with. Your care concierge will work hand in hand with you. And the average cost of care with Upwards is nearly 40% less than traditional care, but Upwards isn't stopping there. Did you know that there are tens of billions of dollars of available resources for childcare assistance in this country? I actually didn't know that. I was astounded to hear it. I was also astounded, but maybe not so much, to hear that the challenge is that it's so complicated to access and so buried on websites that many people don't know about it, number one, or can't figure out how to actually get it, or the paperwork is so tedious that they start and then they give up. But in reality, there's an average of about $9,400 a year available for families for care. Upwards estimates that 71% of Bally's families qualify for some kind of subsidy, and that 57% actually qualify for more than one. So they're breaking down barriers and providing access through their new service called Subsidy Connect. It's a program where they do all the legwork for you. They work with our families to find every last penny available to them, and that's why we love Upwards. They're not just finding care and creating jobs. That wasn't good enough for them. They're going the extra mile to close the gap and help reduce stressors for working families. I've had the pleasure of speaking with Upwards founder Jessica Chang, who herself is a working mom who runs 4 preschools in addition to her job as the founder of this company. I've seen her lobby in Washington, D.C. to petition for assistance for working families. This is a partnership that we are extremely proud of. I mentioned before that we have strong labor relations here at Bally's. We're known in the industry for being a union-friendly company. We work with local and national offices, and some of our largest properties have nearly wall-to-wall union representation. Our dedication to positive labor relations is such that not only do we have a resource at corporate to help foster those relationships and keep things positive and help with negotiations, we actually hired someone from the union to come and work with us to make sure that we were getting this right. And this is just one example of how Bally's can think differently, how we're not afraid to do things that may seem a little outside of the norm, to take a bit of a risk to ensure the proper outcomes for our employees. Tara's intimate knowledge of how unions operate gives us a bit of credibility we may not have had, and that has helped in so many ways to provide the best opportunities for our employees without some of the barriers that can come when it comes to unions and management. We believe in partnerships that are good for our employees, good for the communities we call home, not contentious or strained. I'm not saying we never have disagreements, but at the heart, at the core of it all is a deep mutual respect and a desire to do good, most importantly, for our communities and our employees. I mentioned earlier that we have minimum target numbers for workforce diversity and that we're hoping and even expecting to beat those goals. This case study simply illustrates that this is not just lip service. This is something we have done before. In Chicago, you can see that our dedication to community partnerships has allowed us not only to meet, but to surpass our goals across all workforce segments. And our intentions are the same here in the Bronx. And this is how we do it. We are proud to be out and about across varying forms of media, engaging with the community, working with local and national partners like the National Minority Supplier Development Council, participating in fairs and hosting our own, showing up on social media, in radio, print, on TV, but most importantly with boots on the ground. With hands-on involvement, having real conversations with real people to understand, support, and further the goals of the local community. Now, this next slide is very exciting because it's one of the new and innovative things that we're doing. We're partnering with local businesses to enhance our Bally Rewards program. Bally Rewards is our loyalty program where you can earn points for the dollars you spend at the resort. Now, traditionally, you would redeem those points back for meal comps at the property or hotel stays or free play. But at Bally's, you can now earn points that can be used and redeemed at local businesses. We've launched this program in various markets with success, and we're very excited to bring this new level of economic impact to the Bronx. Lastly, I'd like to share with you an example of a partnership that we're incredibly proud of and really excited to replicate. We're working very closely with CCRI, the Community College of Rhode Island, to bring hospitality and gaming specific education to the community, and in particular, to people who may not traditionally have had access. CCRI's involvement in the community and their work with underserved, underrepresented populations is extensive, and their reach is incredible, stronger and deeper than we would have been able to achieve on our own. At the Lincoln campus in Rhode Island, right down the street from one of our largest properties, we worked with the college to build out a dealer school that would mimic a real casino setting. Table games dealers are an integral part to the gaming function, and dealing cards in this way, in this environment, it's a skill that you don't just pick up. Okay. It's very niche, it's very specific. And every table game dealer is directly connected to casino revenue. So we partner with CCRI to offer a dealer school, free of charge, to Rhode Island residents through their workforce development program. We've also worked together to build a hospitality management program that's launching this fall, and to build out a commercial kitchen at their Newport campus, which will hopefully be home to a restaurant that will be fully run by the students of these new culinary and hospitality programs. I'm also really proud to say that of the 4 dealer schools that have graduated so far, we have a 100% graduation and job offer rate. Next, we're headed to New Orleans with our CCRI partners, where we've been asked to speak at the conference for the Council for Advancement and Support of Education. They've asked us to discuss how our partnership is advancing workforce innovation and economic mobility. I will leave you now with a short video clip that CCRI put together after the grand opening of our dealer school, because this really does say it best.
Exciting, welcome. I feel like I'm at Bally's. Bally's delivers what they say they do. And I want to thank them for not only their commitment to the state, but their commitment to CCRI.
I thought we were walking into the casino when I just walked into the room here. And I looked down and I said, wait a minute, did I make the wrong turn?
Welcome. I am so thrilled to welcome our partners from Bally's today to celebrate the opening of our Casino Training Academy, which is home to the first Bally-sponsored program introduction to table games. And of course, I wish to thank our friends from Bally's: Sue Kim, Kim Barker, Craig Eaton, Craig Schoolis, Jen Reagan, and the entire Bally's team for believing and investing in the unique power of community colleges, and CCRI in particular.
You know, we met about 3-4 weeks ago, Rosemary, myself, and others. We said, let's make this really cool. We used the word sizzle. They got it quickly, and they were already working on this. But then we walked in, and this is sizzling. Rhode Island's our home, and we need to stay committed and even up our game.
Much for your attention. I will now hand over to my colleague Josh Herman for transportation.
Good afternoon, everyone. By way of introduction, my name is Josh Herman. I'm a transportation engineer with Stonefield Engineering, and I've been working with Bally's team for the past few years to identify transportation improvements that would go along with this project. So this facility that's being proposed is sited adjacent to, as you all know, the Frogs Neck and Whitestone bridges, as well as a vast network of highways. And a majority of the traffic that would be generated by the facilities would come from the highway network. And so our study that we've done for this transportation study included both local roadways as well as the highway network to identify the types of improvements that would be meaningful to facilitate access to the site and to improve existing traffic conditions in the area. In doing so, we evaluated hours that are both on a weekday as well as a weekend. And that's because this facility is a 24/7 facility. This isn't like a Yankee game where you'd have a large influx of traffic right before an event and a large exiting traffic flow and after an event. This 24/7 resort would actually be what we call a slow trickle. That traffic and people would arrive at the resort throughout the day on various hours. And so in doing our study, we worked with the various city and state agencies to identify the improvements and to work through the improvements with them as well. As part of a planning study that was released by the New York City Department of City Planning in 2015, one of the recommendations in that study was to map the ring road, and that's the roadway that goes through Ferry Point Park that also provides access to the Bally's Links golf course and the proposed integrated resort. And as part of this project, the roadway would be mapped as a New York City street, which means that the roadway would be improved and upgraded to New York City DOT standards. That includes, widening to standard width lanes from the narrow roadways today, improving pedestrian facilities, providing bicycle facilities, providing bus stops. So along the roadway, what's proposed, the roadway would have a pedestrian sidewalk along the roadway. There would be two-way bike path provided. There would be MTA bus stops along the roadway, one within Ferry Point Park near the EDC parking lot that's there today, and that would facilitate, that would help park users today. And one MTA bus stop would be located within the integrated resort facility itself to improve transit access to the site. The roadway would also have improved drainage infrastructure. As many people know, the roadway currently floods in major rain events. There is a flooding issue within the roadway, and as part of this upgrade, it would be brought up to New York City standards to improve roadway flooding conditions. You can see the rendering on the screen. This is a rendering of what the ring road would look like within Ferry Point Park. So as you can see, these pedestrian crossings across Ring Road would be improved with traffic signals to improve pedestrian safety. On the right-hand side of the roadway rendering shown in on the screen, there would be bike paths, there would be vegetated buffers, there would be wide pedestrian sidewalks to improve access within the park, as well as along Ring Road. This rendering is actually near the Whitestone Bridge. Now, one thing to point out is that today pedestrian access is not provided underneath the Whitestone Bridge. There's no sidewalk that's provided along the road, and there's no pedestrian connection between the east side of the bridge and the west side of the bridge within the park. And here you can see that as part of this Ring Road upgrade, the roadway would provide 2 travel lanes, so wider travel lanes that meet New York City DOT standards, but it also would provide the pedestrian connectivity with pedestrian sidewalks, as well as a 2-way protected bike lane. Zooming out a little bit to the broader area, there are transportation improvements that have been identified throughout the broader area. So these include traffic signal timing improvements, lane restripings, and curbside parking restrictions, and with the intention of optimizing traffic flow and operations through the area for all transportation users. One of the larger improvements that's being proposed, which we'll discuss in a future slide, is an overpass over the Hutchinson River Parkway to facilitate users of the park, as well as alleviate existing traffic issues that we've observed. The rendering on the screen shows the proposed overpass that is just south of Lafayette Avenue, and the overpass goes from east to west across the Hutchinson River Parkway. Now, there's an existing issue in terms of traffic operations today, whereby traffic coming from the Whitestone Bridge and looking to access the Ferry Point Park, they have to go through 2 signalized intersections at Lafayette Avenue. And that creates some congestion along Lafayette Avenue by adding those vehicles to that overpass. With this proposed overpass, traffic would no longer have to go through the 2 signals on Lafayette Avenue. They would have a direct U-turn, so to speak, to come back south towards the park, which should facilitate traffic for park users, for people traveling to the integrated resort, which would also alleviate existing issues along Lafayette Avenue. So as part of the broader transportation plan, the site is currently served by all the major rideshare services, and the New York City subway is nearby, the 6 train is nearby, and the Bally's currently provides a shuttle service. Since 2023, Bally's has provided shuttle service with 10 stops throughout the Throgs Neck neighborhood and connect with the 6 train at the Westchester Square subway station. Just for some numbers there, thousands have used them over the last 2 years. Over 1,000 people use the shuttle services per month. So really, the shuttle services are really a meaningful addition to the community. And Bally's it would continue to be providing that service and improving that service and expanding it as needed. Yes, and now I'm turning it over to my colleague.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Kim Barker. I am the Executive Vice President and Chief Legal Officer for Bally's. I live in Providence, Rhode Island, which is our headquarters, but I am just really excited to share that I'm a proud child of New York, having lived in the Bronx and East Harlem the entirety of my life until I moved to start my legal career. My mother raised me and my siblings on her salary working for the City of New York in the Housing Preservation and Development Office. And it is nothing but an honor to come back to be part of a company that is building and hoping to build this incredible project here in the Bronx. I want to just reiterate in more specifics what Bally's commitment to the community is. We like to say that we are the community because we really are. My colleague Jen has already talked about the workforce initiatives that actually bring job opportunities and transform the lives of families that work for us, in addition to the individual professional aspirations of our employees. But importantly, it is through our investment and partnership with communities, with the people, and also understanding the needs and aspirations of our community that we build what is our community engagement programming. And we're pleased to share that. We've talked a lot about what we plan to do in the Bronx, but I want to remind everyone that we are already here. Proud to say that we are the operator of the Bally's Golf Links, which is a public golf course. Our chairman, Sue, will often say it is the people's golf course, and it really is. And so if you want to look at how we really commit ourselves to the communities where we are, and especially here in the Bronx, for things that we're already doing. About 70% of Bronx residents and 80% of New York City residents comprise our workforce at Bally's Golf Links. We host senior holiday parties, and we are part of the community in very tangible ways. In addition, we are proud to support youth sports programs, understanding filling that gap between physical activity and the needs of communities and developing opportunities for kids to participate in sports, especially a sport that for many of us was inaccessible for economic reasons. So to have that sitting in the Bronx and for Bally's to proudly support that is something that we know that we can emulate in other ways as we grow our presence here in the Bronx. Also importantly is supporting our veterans and military. We host training and other sponsorship programs that are designed to support our veterans and also active military members. The Bally's Golf operation is the best example of what we're already doing here in our community, in addition to some of the other engagements that we're doing through community involvement. I like to say that community engagement is not just about the investment in dollars, it's about the investment in time. It is about really understanding the needs of what a community wants and needs. And we do that across the board in every single community where we have a property or where our employees live and work. We have a very active and actively engaged workforce in looking at volunteerism, sponsoring local events, and then also specific charitable giving, both at the Bally's Corporation level. And one of the roles that I do have at the company that I am proud to share with you is to serve as the leader of the Bally's Foundation, which is the independent foundation that is supported entirely by Bally's. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that. I think it's important to note that we believe that community engagement is truly a partnership between Bally's and the companies and the communities where our employees live, where our facilities are, and where we hope to be. And so specifically with respect to the Bronx, we engage in a canvas of all of the neighborhoods across the Bronx to really understand what were the really, what did this project mean to residents of the Bronx? And importantly, it was a door-to-door campaign, and it included an education component, in addition to the ability for us to, on a very grassroots, one-to-one level, understand and gauge local support for the casino in Ferry Point. We engaged registered voters. We canvassed over 11,000 registered voters, and we also collected nearly 10,000 pledge cards. And I think what's important to note for this is that across every single zip code in the Bronx, there was overwhelming support for this project. I would say it ranged from anywhere from over 55% to what we say is 85+% support for this project. And that is important to note because this project is for all of the Bronx. And our community engagement and our investments will reflect that, as we've already talked about. I want to talk a little bit about the Bally's Foundation because it is another component of how we are going to be highly engaged in this community. We are an independent Delaware not-for-profit. Our mission, and this is important, is to address the health, educational, social, and economic well-being of communities where Bally's employees, guests, and customers live. That is a very expansive purpose because we understand the nuances of the holistic approach that we have to be in communities, particularly where there is great need and there are many, many gaps. We've already talked about how Bally's Corporation supported a landmark $5 million gift to the community colleges of Rhode Island. And in addition to that gift, the workforce opportunities that have come out of that. That was designed in collaboration, and we will continue to do that here in the Bronx as we move forward. We operate independent of our board of directors, but we also operate with complete financial support from Bally's Corporation, and that we hope to grow. In addition to the golf links and other projects that we support, we have supported many New York City communities, including our quality golfing program at Ferry Point, and for other types of programs that are really supportive of educational and other needs within communities. And I want to take a moment to really highlight the support that the foundation was able to provide to Preston High School. We recognized that there was a need, and there was a great need, and that there was at risk the ability to have a legacy creating institution not have the necessary support to continue to educate young women to lead for many years in the future. And with that, the Bally's Foundation was proud to commit $8.5 million to purchase that building to allow Preston High School to continue to operate. We were proud to do that because we recognize the importance that that institution played here in the Bronx. And beyond, when we think about the legacy and we think about the future of many young women who are entering different levels of professions within the workforce, and we wanted to be part of that proud tradition. The important, I think, component to the Preston High School story is that Bally showed up, and that's what we intend to do across the board, and that's what we are currently doing. Chris has already covered some aspects of public health and safety, but there is one important component to public health and safety that I want to talk about, which is the commitment to responsible gaming. It is built into our DNA to ensure that we promote healthy and responsible gaming. Generally, there are regulations that are going to be in place to ensure that operators operate responsibly in terms of gaming activity. But what we like to do at Bally's is to always go beyond what is required of us and to think about innovative and landmark ways that we can support responsible gaming in our communities. Part of that is through partnerships that we have with both international and domestic organizations that are focused on responsible gaming. The International Center for Responsible Gaming is an example where we've committed several $1 million over multiple years to look at research aimed at ensuring that problem gaming does not become a public health crisis. We have local partnerships in each of the jurisdictions where we have properties, the Rhode Island Council on Problem Gambling, Illinois Council. Across the board, we support both financially, but then also in leading research and other types of programs that are really designed to ensure that we have a healthy relationship between Bally's and our customers and our players within our casinos. Responsible gaming is at the fabric of how we operate. And we have the added benefit of having a very wide portfolio of products, including at our casinos, but then also through iGaming and sports betting. And we partner our technology operations with helping to assist with ensuring that responsible gaming is built into the fabric of how we operate and how we provide entertaining yet safe gaming to all of our customers. I wanted to just highlight some of the specific ways that we are supporting problem gambling research and engagement here in New York. We are committed to enforcing the standards that were set forth by the New York State Gaming Commission. We have something called a voluntary self-exclusion program, which really looks at ways that players can become more educated on how to sense problem gambling and to take steps to protect themselves, and for Bally's, importantly, third parties and other family members, to make sure that responsible gaming does not become a problem. We incorporate both hands-on materials and then also education at our facilities and online, and then also engage in very specific programs, community-based, that will align with the specific communities. I'll give you an example. In Chicago, we partnered with state health officials to devise safe gambling and responsible gaming materials in Cantonese and other Chinese languages, which was actually groundbreaking way of bringing responsible gaming, but other health support services to communities who, from a language perspective, previously were not included in those materials. We will continue to partner with the New York State Problem Gambling Resource Centers and the Council on Problem Gambling. And beyond that, always look internally to think about ways that we can do it better than anyone else is doing in terms of bringing responsible gaming initiatives to our players and to their families. Chris has already talked about public safety and our commitment to ensuring and supporting the creation of 2 new police substations to support the safety efforts. But we were talking about this earlier and wanted to highlight one of the benefits of being an organization that has really grown by technology is that there are always going to be state-of-the-art surveillance systems, weapon detection systems that are in our casinos that will help promote the safety of not only the casinos, but the surrounding areas. When we look at physical security, there's going to be controlled access to all of the back areas, constant security monitoring, and as previously mentioned, the substation in collaboration with the 45th Precinct. In terms of community engagement, one of the areas that we did learn from the community canvassing project was that public safety is first and foremost on the minds of many community residents. And so that addressing that concern and filling that gap would be something that would be part of ongoing communication with our local community board members. And then finally, just partnering with various stakeholders who are also committed to public safety, and that would include the 45th Precinct and other state and local safety organizations and public safety organizations.
We're just going to do a quick time check. We have about 20 minutes left, and there are members of
I think we're done.
I think we're done.
That's perfect time.
You got right to the very end there. Thank you.
I'll just say thank you for listening. I know some of this is new for some of you and some not as much. So I wanted to give as much detail as we could for the initial meeting.
So we have time now for Q&A from the members, from the applicant team.
Can I jump in on the community support aspect, because you were just speaking about that? You called CB10 your home. That's where the casino will reside. However, there's 131,000 residents in CB10, but less than 3% for Canvas. What was the strategy for canvassing such a small group of people where the casino will be housed? 3,705 residents.
I'll take that. So the canvas operation was not just for CB10, it was also for the surrounding community boards. We focused on Council District 13, Assembly District 82, and Senate District 34. There was a little bit of expansiveness outside of that on the edges, but 3% relative to the overall number of voters is actually pretty significant in comparison when you actually go and take a look at actual polling data when you were going out and doing polling in an election, as an example. So I would actually disagree around the level of significance, and I think that 10,000 signed pledge cards, which are all backed up by registered voters, I think that's very significant.
Do you have those pledge cards so we could see the verbiage?
You do. Absolutely.
Okay. Also, the community board 10 also voted against the proposal. So how do you claim that you demonstrate such community support in this district when so few people have come out and support? I've been to those meetings and I've seen the people speaking out against this overwhelmingly.
So I think to Kim's point and what the pledge cards actually reveal, the Throgs Neck neighborhood is obviously our neighbor, right? That level of support was north of 50%. As you create the halo effect and get a little bit further away from the site, the levels of support go up exponentially.
There was also numerous associations on the application material that I saw that you stated supported the project, but I know for a fact that they do not, and they have made public statements, some of them that they didn't. How do you expect the community to trust what Bally's is saying if there's already lies being put out there? How could the community get behind and support this project if we're not being given the accurate information?
So I would say, number one, I'm not sure what organizations you're talking
I can
about.
provide you with that information.
Okay.
Yeah, Morris Park Community Association, first and foremost, they came out and made a statement. Morris Park Columbus Day Parade, there's numerous.
Number
Senior Citizens
understood.
Club, which doesn't exist, and there's numerous organizations. So,
Number two, if you'd like, we can address each one of those.
yeah, I would love to do that,
So-
yeah. And you would provide me with the pledge cards so we can view the verbiage on them and see what people are actually signing, correct?
I think we're happy to. I don't know
Great.
what the rules are.
Just ping pong it through me.
Great.
And I'll
Perfect.
facilitate it back and forth.
I'll let some others take some questions for now.
I have a question pertaining to the economic development aspects of the project. So I work for the governor's office and I do economic development for the state of New York. And we have a lot of large projects, and I have heard the same type of idealism on large projects. 2 points. Right now in the airports, there is $19 billion of construction being done in both airports. And we developed a program that's called the Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprises. It's the only one in this country that funds small business owners that want to work in the airports. Now, you're going to have opportunities for small businesses who want to engage in providing those services in your casino. You mentioned you already have a restaurant there. Are there going to be opportunities for Bronx-based businesses who want to own restaurants in your place, want to really provide the services so that they can grow with the casino?
100%. So what we've done typically in other markets is there's a point of contact at the property. There's also information available on our websites, using the website as an example, and not just restaurateurs. We're talking about service vendors, et cetera. And this is on both construction and on operations. You have the ability to sign up and be notified in our vendor portal when we're going out and looking for vendors. That's not the only thing we do. We also are a member of the National Minority Supplier Development Council. We're partners in every state that we operate in order to go do that. So those are just some of the outreach aspects. And I also would note the community engagement office that I mentioned, that is going to be one of their primary roles, right? Finding opportunities for smaller businesses in order to get contracts, to get services, to sell us goods.
So you're going to commit to having a percentage. Because I heard what you're saying is you're gonna have a website, you're gonna have people to you can talk to, but is Bally gonna commit to have a percentage of their entrepreneurs be the Bronx based or New York City based in both the contracting services for the building the facility and for the interaction within the facility?
Yes, we committed within the RFA to a floor of 35%.
Okay.
I think it's in the MWBE exhibit, if I remember correctly.
Well, MWB is now a touchy word now, right? So are we talking about socioeconomic disadvantaged individuals because they are minority residents in the Bronx who want to participate in these opportunities? So
It would include both.
okay.
I think we categorized it somewhere between 35 and 50% for local businesses and diverse businesses. If I remember the actual verbiage correctly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Will the new locations for the practice facility and the clubhouse be on Parks property?
100%.
And for the rest of the golf course as well?
Correct. So today the golf course is 222 acres. Essentially, we would be acquiring roughly 16 acres. I think it's 15.8 when you do the actual math. Ultimately, the remaining 204 plus or minus will remain under the license agreement with New York City Parks. As it's being worked through today from a legal documentation standpoint, we are working through an amendment to the license agreement that will ultimately carve out that 15.8 acres from the licensed premises on a meets and bounds standpoint. And then additionally, there is a conveyance agreement, essentially a purchase and sale agreement that will relate to the acquisition of the land, which is obviously predicated on us being awarded a license.
So the second part of that question is the $100 million that has to be returned in kind, some form or another, to parks. Does that count the development of the practice facility that you have to put in the clubhouse?
No. So their dollar amount will be within the conveyance agreement, and there will be specific projects that are required. Those are going to be required, but those are not part of that 100 million specifically.
Thank you.
Just to circle back on the prior question, we have a real life example when we was selected to as the winners of the Chicago single casino RFP. After the selection was made, we went through a series of negotiations with the selector, in this case was the city of Chicago, to sign a binding host community agreement where we made commitments in terms of hiring and supply and and whatever all the other community benefits were in that host community agreement. This is sort of like a two-part process. Obviously, the CAC is local, and then it gets advised to the state. It does sound like it's possible for us to come to an agreement with the CAC, and then for us to come to an agreement with the state. So I'm not sure at which point we would do it. We're more than willing to negotiate for a community, socioeconomic, focused, targeted commitments.
New York State has a great record of, we provide the funding for these contractors to do the work. So we provide them the base to do the work. We want to make sure the opportunities are there, real opportunities, and that whoever you hire to do the work lives up to the commitment. And there's a lot of times what we find is that they're under pressure to complete the project, right? And sometimes that pressure leads them to cut corners insofar as hiring the people in the community, the small contractors, the electricians, or debundling these huge contracts so that smaller companies can participate in the project. So we hope that's what we're looking for in this project.
I think that's something we can also consider. We've signed a memorandum of understanding with the New York City Building Trades Council as we work through a full project labor agreement. I think that's something that we should all be mindful of and trying to incorporate, right? That pushes not only us as developer, but the trades to also work with us.
In terms of traffic and congestion, I know that's one of the major issues that people see this project potentially having. The turnaround bridge that was mentioned, could I just get specifics in where would be in terms of the Drosnick Shopping Center? Because I know that area already. Personally, I got into an accident when somebody rear-ended me trying to go around. And so maybe it's a better question for DOT too, but will there be a light there? Would it just be a turnaround where Is a yield sign? What would that look like?
Yeah, so it's located approximately 200 feet south of Lafayette Avenue, the existing Lafayette Avenue overpass. And we've been working with the city on that. At this point, we are looking to signalize that.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm going to jump in on the transportation transit. We talked about alleviating the traffic, which is a great thing. Where do we stand on truck traffic? The amount of deliveries, you're on a 24. I know when Target was being built, the chaos that it formed with the amount of trucks. With this being 24 hours, either which way, it becomes very problematic, but I haven't heard how it's going to be handled because you are near the two bridges. So does that mean most of your vendors were coming from outside the Bronx to be able to access? I'm just curious how specific to truck traffic and truck ins and outs.
Yeah, so I'll jump in maybe just from an operational standpoint, right? We have the benefit of we're a pretty big revenue source for a lot of vendors. So we have the ability to control or more so control than many others. Our traffic, typically in an environment like this, it's an urban environment. We know that we don't want to further, add to any issues. We can push our drivers. We could be the first delivery out, right? We could be a later night delivery. So we have that ability to push to off-peak hours. In terms of actual specifics, I will punt it to the traffic team. I don't know if they break down the transportation analysis in terms of, I know they do it by guests and visitors, but I think we do trucks.
Yeah, and so trucks would access, by existing truck routes, mainly, the interstate system that would be, and they're, I believe by city law, they're required to exit the interstate system at the location closest to the site itself. So truck traffic would exit, I-678 primarily to access the site. And as Chris mentioned, typically the truck traffic would be during off-peak hours because truck drivers don't want to sit in traffic either during peak hours when people are going to work and going about their day.
And forgive me, I'm going to continue on that point. When you look at the site, the only one that I can think of is that intersection where the old Whitestone Cinemas was. And that intersection, although it's been upgraded, would be about the only part that, other than taking the Whitestone, would be the only part where you can access that area. So you have Target, Coca-Cola, all that mailing system. Are you in communication? Do you intend to be in communication as it relates to how these deliveries would happen, the impact of that corner, which is disastrous as it is right now?
So
what's the plan, I guess?
Yeah, so operationally, I know there's been a lot of construction north there, which has caused a lot.
Which is, in
It's
the end,
hopefully-
should be a great thing, right?
Yeah, hopefully
But I'm not
it
sure.
will be helpful. I will tell you, we've met with every single neighbor in and around our site, and as many as we possibly can. I will tell you, Pepsi is actually a big fan of the overpass because they're looking on the screen, or maybe it's not on the screen anymore, but going up to Lafayette, their trucks have to make a left and a left, right? They have to sit on that bridge. With the overpass, they never will have to actually sit on that bridge if they're coming in and out of the site, right? This creates essentially an open but a closed loop whereby you never have to go on a city street if you're coming from the highway.
One more quick thing with the traffic. I'm sure you're aware there's 6 schools approximately a mile away from the proposed site. My daughter goes to one of those schools, MS 101. There was a study conducted at Lafayette Avenue and Cross Bronx Expressway Service Road eastbound, but none 20 feet away at Lafayette Avenue and Cross Bronx Expressway westbound. And that is where a building sits that houses 3 different schools. Drop off, one of those schools actually is for children with severe disabilities. Drop off and pick up there is already abysmal. I've done it myself. Why was that critical intersection left out of the study? And, or if I did miss it, can you please share your findings or mitigation measures or why it was left out?
So my layman's terms understanding is that there are requirements under CAC, which are essentially the rules around how you go through the studies required for your ULURP. I'll let Josh maybe jump into that.
Yeah, and actually that intersection was one of the study intersections that was looked at.
I didn't see, could you share those findings with me? Because we did not see that intersection. I saw the other one that goes eastbound, but I did not see that one westbound by the school.
Yeah, absolutely. We could share those findings.
Yeah, please, that would be great.
That was.
And how would you plan to mitigate the traffic issues that are currently there now?
So in that area, we are looking at traffic signal improvements, restriping as well, but I could provide all those results.
Yeah, that would be great because that's a one-lane road in front of that school and there's 6 schools in that area. I could tell you as somebody who lives in this community that I can't see how widening the ring road and heading the overpass is going to lessen the traffic that's already severely congested there. So you have to understand that this is a major concern for our community. That bridge, you're not going to make the bridge bigger and you're not going to make the highway bigger. And without doing that, I can't see how it's going to be mitigated, but I would love to continue those discussions, see what other plans you have.
I'm going to add one question. I'm sorry. Did you want to ask a question?
Quick question, just on comparables. So I want to make sure I have this correct. You're saying that 10% of gross gaming revenues for public benefits, minimum $10 million, did I get that correct?
1%.
1%, but a minimum of $10 million.
Yeah, minimum 10.
So do you have, what's a comparable casino that you're operating now, so we can get a sense of what the 1% of gross revenues would be?
Yeah, I mean, I think GGR for the Rhode Island casinos probably are approximately, it approaches 500 million. Chicago, when it's all said and done, we're in the process of building it. That'll be close to 800 million. And again, New York will be the largest casino in the country. You know, we don't operate it, but the one in outside of DC called National Harbor, that is, I think, about 900 million GGR. So these properties, in especially here, we believe will do easily north of $1 billion, probably close to $1.3 billion.
Thank you.
And I was actually going to follow in that one. The 1%, is that for how long? The entirety, for as long as it exists?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The Bronx Benefit Fund, you said, would be comprised of appointees of local elected officials. Which local elected officials?
I think we were thinking about the 4 in the CAC, but really ultimately the benefits would be to any usage in the Bronx. So we really want to make sure that even though the CAC specifically speaks to the neighbors of the project, that this is a Bronx project, it's a borough-wide project, and the impact should impact all of the community. So that's really what we want to see, and I think it's best left to the local electeds to figure out exactly how to engage the neighboring electeds to widen the catchment.
That was going to be my follow-up. Is how will that fund be broken down? So we're going to allow the elected officials to decide between all of them how it's broken down, or is there a specific committee that'll be appointed? How is that 200 million going to be broken down between the elected?
I think I think the best thing to do is to leave it to elected.
Leave it to the officials. Okay. I have a quick follow-up to that. There was a letter written on July 14th that Bally is going to allocate 10 million just specifically to the council member representing District 13th, with a balance of 7.5 million to be allocated equally to the Bronx Borough President, the state senator representing the 34th Senate District, and the state assembly member for the 82nd Assembly District. Does that breakdown still remain, or that's not on the
table? We tried to engage the city council member, ultimately to, that was what that member wanted. As much as it imbalanced the operations of this fund, we ultimately said, look, if that's what it takes, we'd be willing to do it. But then there was no engagement on the other side.
So it's off the table.
Well, it wasn't accepted.
Okay.
It was not accepted. So
it was to be accepted contingent upon her voting, I assume, for the project in the council.
I mean, I think that I think that we're trying to put together a series of benefits that is responsive to what the community wants. Obviously, we're listening to the community, local electeds to understand that, and but ultimately that dialogue was not ultimately agreed to. So look, the nice thing is that this process is an opportunity for the CAC to agree as a whole as to what that package will ultimately look like.
It could possibly be put back on the table. Is what
That
you're
was my
saying.
next question.
Yeah.
I think that it's again, possibly. And I think but the most important thing to point out is that 1 point is it's a 1 point with a minimum of 10. We think the number is going to be healthily above 10. So obviously, we want to highlight that number. But again, yeah, absolutely, we can. Look, I just think that it's very important to note that obviously with these political processes, they're just, there's just there's the immediate community, and then there's the neighbors, and then there's the wider neighbors, and then the Bronx as a whole. We're trying to make everybody happy. It's very hard. So we're going to try. We're going to try our best. We in spirit, we're trying to do our best.
I just had a follow-up question on the community benefits agreement. Do you have an example of a similar type of structure in one of your other locations where you created these, and sort of how it's operated, how you disperse the money? If you have something like that, I think that you could share with us. I think that'd be helpful just to see an example of like what one already looks like that Bally's is already.
Sure, yeah, we have a series of, we're happy to provide. Again, there's plenty of times when, as part of the licensing condition or the host community agreement, again, as we talked about with Chicago, that there's an agreement on top of the gaming license. So yes, we're happy to share which ones, the kind of agreements that we've entered in the past.
Thank you.
Is that it? Ready to move on.
All right, do any of the members have any other items they'd like to present for consideration at this time?
I just had one more quick question. I know I speak a lot, I'm sorry, but I want to get it all in. And this is just a quick question. I've noticed certain proposals like Metropolitan Park, they have like so much of their family friendliness is a core of their entire proposal. I haven't really seen any of that from your proposal. And I'm an avid casino goer. I frequent Mohegan Sun with my children and Foxwoods. So I'm all for a family-friendly casino destination. I know what that can bring. Other than some mild improvements to Ferry Point Park, which are contingent upon you receiving the casino license, it won't happen if you're just operating the golf course and restaurant. I think that we deserve more than a casino. I think we deserve something more for families. Would you be consider altering the proposal to maybe include substantial family amenities and work with the CAC and the community to maybe add some more family-friendly attractions?
Sure. So I've been in the industry for a while, and again, really, one of the advantages that we've had is we've actually seen the range of communities. Look, I've actually owned a casino that has a customer daycare in the casino. So which again, I think is surprising to others because they're like, wow, especially since it was actually it was a smoking permitted casino. It was just the whole thing was exactly, there was a lot. I think but again, it's not on us to tell the community what their values should be. It's on us to ultimately meet the customers and the community where they are. And be responsive. Hopefully we can, like many New Yorkers that do go to Connecticut and drop the tax dollars and jobs in Connecticut, we can keep those dollars right here. That's the most important thing. I will say that I take a little bit of exception only to I think that the improvements on Ferry Point will be dramatic.
Is there a specific dollar amount allocated?
For sure. And I mean, the Parks Department ourselves are very closely working together. Because right now it's actually a park that's really hard to get to. And obviously it gets flooded with just a little bit of rain. There are no sidewalks and there's no parking. So it's like park with no parking. So there's so many things we can do there to make it absolutely family friendly and open to the community. But again, this is something where we're trying to be responsive to the community. When we talked about making a footpath from what is Strog's Neck in front of the waterfront to the Ferry Point Park, people are like, no, we don't want it because we don't want to connect those two. So again, we're just going to listen very carefully, be intentional about how we respond. As to more family-friendly options at the casino itself, first of all, I will point out that it is a public golf course, so there's all that comes with that. We will have banquet spaces, conference spaces; those are all open beyond gaming. The event space is open beyond gaming. What will be an extensive food hall and restaurants. That's all. Doesn't require gaming to do that. So those are all. Now, to embed family friendly in the gaming, I think that's going to be exactly. There's just going to be some. Again, it depends on the community. So all this is possible. I think this is why we're here. We're really here to listen to what the community wants, and it's a dynamic process. And we're happy to go through this stage, make a series of commitments that will deliver to the community what they believe that they should.
Great, thank you.
Great. All right. Hearing no other items, this meeting of the Bally's Bronx CAC is officially adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I'm not going to stick around.